Hello and welcome to this edition of Access Asia. Coming up, capitalism in a communist country. North Korea's economic hub feels a pinch after sanctions over the country's weapons program. It's been 5 years since a fatal gang rape in New Delhi caused global outrage. We'll find out if government-imposed awareness courses are having a positive effect. Forget the seedy underbelly or the posh penthouse. Hong Kong's rooftops has it all, attracting rebels, outlaws, and squatters. But first, in North Korea, the port city of Rason has special status as an economic zone, attracting foreign businesses in manufacturing, tourism, and transportation. Some have even speculated whether Rason is an experiment in capitalism by the communist regime. One thing does appear certain, though. The well-being of the economic hub is at odds with the government's nuclear ambitions.
This is Rason. Near the China and Russia borders, the warm water port is North Korea's most important special economic zone. Foreign companies such as this Chinese-owned cement plant are given tax breaks and legal concessions to encourage them to operate here. But the world's desire to punish Pyongyang for its weapons programs is having an impact.
Many things can't be imported from China anymore because of the UN sanctions. In terms of the transfer of funds from both sides, you could say it's been cut off.
There were more than 5,000 foreign businessmen in this coal smoke-shrouded city, most of them from China, but some have left since sanctions began to bite. The man tasked with drumming up business here admits the restrictions have had an effect, but remains defiant.
Under the leadership of the Supreme Commander, our economic foundations have been laid solid. Our national power has been strengthened. Therefore, our people won't wither under any sanctions.
Kim says Rason has received around €500 million in investments, a third of it from North Korea and the rest from abroad. But experts suggest that the squeeze is now on.
North Korea's ability to develop the economic zone on its own is limited, and it needs the active investment of foreign capital for it to succeed. The sanctions against North Korea will make it hard for such foreign investments, and North Korea's plans for the development of these economic zones will be hard to carry out for now.
The city wants to use its proximity to Russia and China to ship more foreign goods abroad. But 8 sets of UN sanctions have banned North Korea from exporting items ranging from coal to seafood and textiles. And in light of the latest missile test, that list may be extended.
More than 600,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled the violent military crackdown in Burma. A French actor wants to see a different force mobilized in one of the world's gravest humanitarian crises. Actor and comedian Omar Sy, best known for starring in the award-winning film The Untouchables, wants to create a so-called love army, a 2-day fundraiser that was originally conceived by French social media star Jérôme Jarre. The goal is to use the strength of the internet to raise awareness and offer $2 million in aid. Well, it's been 5 years since a fatal gang rape of a young woman by 6 men on a bus in New Delhi caused global outrage. The crime prompted thousands to protest rising sex attacks in the city, calling for new laws and more enforcement, and also raising a long-overdue debate about gender-based hate crimes. 5 years on, the Thomson Reuters Foundation recently named the Indian capital, along with Brazil's Sao Paulo, as the world's worst megacity for sexual violence against women. For more, let's speak to Catherine Bennett from the France 24 Observers. You reported on this crisis, and notably on one effort to improve the situation called Building Bonds. What is this program?
Well, it's a training program designed to stop harassment on Delhi's public transport, so with drivers of auto rickshaws, buses and taxis. It was launched by the Manners Foundation, which is a mental health charity, in 2014, after the very widely publicised rape case when an Uber driver raped his passenger. And since then, they've partnered with the Indian government, and the Indian government has actually made it mandatory for all drivers to follow this training in order to renew their licences every year.
And how does it operate? It's difficult to change these sort of long entrenched notions about male roles and female roles in society.
Well, I spoke to two of the trainers who run these 2-hour training sessions. And of course, they go through the laws of sexual harassment in the country and the potential punishments involved. But mostly it's about changing the driver's behaviour. So they use techniques from mental health studies, actually. They start with brainstorming sessions to talk about gender stereotypes. And this is meant to make the drivers aware of their own prejudices. And with that awareness, they're then more able to change it. So, for instance, the drivers may believe that women shouldn't travel by themselves or they shouldn't commute across the city at night. And of course, the trainers will respond with, well, then how will you get work? Because women make up 70% of their passengers. So if women didn't have jobs, then nor would the drivers.
Right. It poses a problem that needs something to be addressed to it. But what has the reaction been from the drivers themselves?
Well, one of the things that the drivers often ask is, why us? Why do we have to be trained? And of course, that is because of the number of these very high-profile rape cases involving drivers on public transport, and the government has to be seen to be doing something. What's interesting to note is that these drivers are often actually internal migrants, so they come from the countryside, and they've only ever seen women in domestic roles. So to come to the capital and see young women wearing short skirts, being drunk, going out with their boyfriends, well, of course, it's really shocking for them. And so what the Manners Foundation tries to do is to explain to them that society is changing and they have to change along with it. One of the other questions that is frequently asked is apparently, what should I do if a woman is deliberately being provocative? And for them, this means that she's drunk, she's wearing a revealing dress, or even just that she's overly friendly. And of course, part of the training is to tell them that women are allowed to make these choices. And as a driver, they have only one responsibility, and that's to get the woman where she needs to go.
And real quickly, what happens once the drivers finish this training?
So each of the drivers is given a sticker or a badge to display in their vehicle, which says, I respect women, or as well as this vehicle, I also drive a campaign to end violence against women. The foundation does regular follow-ups with the drivers just to keep reinforcing the training that they've had. And external evaluations say that 81% of drivers say that their behaviour has changed as a result of the training. And then, of course, on an anecdotal level, there's been a hugely positive response from women who take public transport.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Catherine Bennett from the France 24 Observers. And you can read her report on our website, france24.com. Now, Hong Kong has one of the world's most recognizable skylines, but the view from atop its skyscrapers may change your perspective. In a city so densely populated, space is at a premium, and rooftops provide a setting for anything from death-defying stunts to slums with better views than a penthouse. Alexander Alcott has more.
Hong Kong, a city of skyscrapers that's rising taller by the day, and it's become a playground for these adrenaline junkies known as rooftoppers.
When you see us climbing so high, with bare hands and no ropes, you might think it's dangerous. But we know our limits, and we stick to them.
They climb onto the rooftops to escape the frantic activity on the streets below them.
To me, going to a rooftop is like a state of meditation. When you look back down to the city, it's like playing in a slow motion. And you don't hear a sound from the ground. You could see the city that you live in every day from a new angle.
Daniel Lau is a fitness instructor in his day-to-day life, but in his virtual life he's a star of social media. Tens of thousands of people follow him and watch these videos where he poses in precarious places. And there are hundreds of others who've started to appreciate the beauty of Hong Kong from above. Alexandre is a Frenchman who's been living in Hong Kong for 6 years. After taking pictures all over the world, this city has become his favorite subject.
From up here, we can really see what's around us. There are very chic shops at the bottom, and then people who basically live in shacks on the roofs. And if we're not aware of this vertical dynamic, we lose a bit of the spirit of the city, because it's part of Hong Kong.
The former British colony is one of the richest cities in the world, and with that comes extremely high rental prices. Some of the poorest Hong Kongers have found they have no choice but to live in ramshackle rooftop dwellings.
In Hong Kong, it's very expensive to rent a decent housing, and rooftop, they are more cheaper. They're cheaper than others types of housing, but actually it's illegal.
The local government estimates there are around 3,000 people living on the rooftops of Hong Kong, but this NGO says there are many more and tries to help those like Mrs. Chan, who's been living on top of this building for the past 10 years.
This is where we wash our clothes and take our showers. And this is the shared living room.
For the equivalent of 1,200 euros per month, 3 couples live in cramped conditions. The unofficial construction follows no regulations about safety or build quality.
Sometimes when it rains, there are leaks. When there's a typhoon, the wind blows so hard that it comes through the windows. Look at the ceiling. Everything was destroyed.
The roofs of Hong Kong also offer one last place of solitude for people to stretch out and breathe in a city that's so lacking in space.
Caught up in everything else around us. And in a life, especially lived in Hong Kong, we give ourselves little room for stillness. And then maybe yes one more time.
Lorena is originally from Austria. Once per week, she uses her rooftop to give a yoga class 100 meters above the ground.
I think it's something that's becoming more popular in Hong Kong because people are realizing that the space is needed. So they're starting to use more and more rooftops on especially new buildings. And it's just very open, there's a nice breeze, and it's cheaper than studios.
Each year, 30 more skyscrapers are built in Hong Kong. All of them come with new rooftops ready to be used and explored.
And finally, in Japan, Christmas light shows are becoming increasingly popular, but one of the oldest ones can be found in the city of Sapporo. Christmas has increased in popularity in the country, but is often celebrated without a religious connotation. Sapporo's light display dates back to 1981. In total, there are 720,000 LED lights adorning 5 venues across the city, including the 300-meter-long Tunnel of Light. Well, we leave you with these images. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time.
Middle East Matters, presented by Sanam Chantier.
Keep up to date on the latest from the Middle East. We bring you political, economic, and cultural events from the region in this weekly Middle Eastern program.
Middle East Matters on France 24 and France24.com.